Okay, good morning. Today is Wednesday. It is the 25th day of Elul. As we know, the 25th day of Elul is the beginning of the creation of the world, the first day of creation. And as we know, God, on the first day of creation, He created everything. And then as the 6 days went on, everything came out in details. So it's a very special day, getting ready to Rosh Hashanah. And don't forget the Tehillim we say today, the 3 extra chapters, 73, 74, 75. And we begin again today with tzedakah. Let's put tzedakah wherever you are. Today, let's tzedakah shemekareves the sageula. Tzedakah hastens the coming of Mashiach. So today, very apropos, we begin a new chapter in Igeret Hakodesh, and this chapter talks about the light of Hashem in this world. Apropos for the very first day of creation. So, in this chapter, the Alter Rebbe discusses about the light of the Torah. Hashem is infinite light to come to connect with a finite world. You need to have an intermediary, something that connects the infinite light of Hashem and the finitude of this world. And that bridge is the Torah. Because the Torah has in it both. It has in it the revealed part of the Torah, which comes in forms, limited forms. The Torah laws discuss various physical objects, whether talking about a cow goring, and an ox goring a cow, and so on. All kinds of limited physical things. And at the same time, there's also the infinite light in the Torah. And Alter Rebbe is going to talk about how this great light of the Torah came down to this world. Who was the one that brought it down? Of course, it was Moses. It came through Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moses was the one that served also as the bridge that came through Moshe Rabbeinu, the teachings to the Jewish people. And here the Alter Rebbe quotes the Arizal that says that even Moshe Rabbeinu, even Moses, you would think that he got the very top of the Torah, the highest levels. The Arizal says no. That Moshe Rabbeinu only reached and grasped the external dimensions of the Torah. Even Moses. I mean, to use a metaphor that we used in the past in the Tanya, when a bright teacher wants to deliver something to a student, we explained how the process goes. It goes through the chachma, the wisdom. The teacher has his own wisdom, and he processes himself, the bina, the understanding. And then it goes through the emotive attributes in order to be able to deliver to the next level, to a student, to a child. It goes through the whole process. And in the Kabbalistic terms, we have the 7 emotive attributes. And only then the child, when receives, after being filtered and lowered and going through the process, the child receives a tiny little bit of understanding, and he thinks he got the greatest thoughts, and he's very impressed. But obviously, there is the external aspect, the external dimension of the wisdom that the child gets, and there is much deeper dimensions in this wisdom. So here the Alter Rebbe is going to bring from the Arizal when it says that similar thing about the wisdom of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah that Moses received. So let's see inside. The Alter Rebbe begins with a verse in the Tehillim. It says, Oite oyer kasalma v'gaimen. He wraps himself with light as with a garment. So this verse speaks of light hidden within the garment. The Alter Rebbe will explain here how the light of the Torah that transcends revelation is vested in a concealing garment. We're talking about the light of the Torah. And the simple understanding of this verse is God wraps the world with the light. But in the deeper understanding is that the light itself, you have the light of the Torah and you have the garment of the Torah. The light of the Torah is more the mystical part of the Torah, which is the light. The garment is the material, the physical, the revealed part of the Torah, which is as vested in concealment of a garment. The Alter Rebbe goes on and he quotes the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria. Hine belekutei Torah shelo Arizal, Parshas Kisisa, Parshas Vayikra. In the Lekutei Torah of Rabbi Yitzchak Luria of blessed memory, in the portion of Ketisa and a portion of Vayikra, it is stated, Kosav, Ki asagas Moshe Rabbeinu olav hashalom, lo yhoisa vebchinas pnimius de chachma ilo anikra abad hatzilus. It stated that Moses, our master, peace to him, did not apprehend the pnimius, the most inward and profound level of the supernal chachma. Moshe Rabbeinu did not grasp the inner part, the inner dimension of the wisdom of the chachma law, the higher wisdom, the supernal wisdom. Anikro Abba de Atzilus, which is called Abba of Atzilus. Abba means the father. Father refers to the level of chachma, the wisdom of the world of Atzilus, which of course we mentioned, Atzilus is the highest of the four spiritual worlds. So Moshe Rabbeinu didn't grasp the inner dimension of the chachma of Atzilus. The culture came, and for sure not, B'sfiras akesa shelemayla mimeno anikra ari champi. And for sure not in the sphere, in the attribute of Kesel. Kesel means the crown, which is called Arich Anpin, the long countenance, the long face that transcends Chachma. Kesel means a crown. The crown sits on top of the head. This represents the light which is beyond the levels of Atzilus, Chachma, the intellectual and the emotional levels of Atzilus. So there, certainly, Moshe Rabbeinu did not grasp the level in the level of Kesel. What did Moshe Rabbeinu grasp? He says, Ki im b'bchinas achoraim b'chachma ameslapshim b'bina. Rather, Moses apprehended as far as the achoraim. Achoraim means the exterior levels. Achoraim is like the hint part, the back, the external dimension of Chachma, which are vested in Bina. The Chachma goes in Bina. Hamislabeshes bezayin sfiros tachtoines shenikroim ze'er ampim, which in turn vest in the 7 lower sephiros, collectively called ze'er ampim, meaning small countenance. The emotional attributes are called the small countenance. And this is after, like, the wisdom goes into the emotive attributes, there Moshe Rabbeinu understood. Soida Torah, and he didn't finish yet. And he says this is the mystical principle of the Torah, which means the Torah is based on those 7 attributes. Because the Torah is also about what is allowed, what is not allowed, what is permissible, what is not permissible, what is kosher, what is not kosher. And as we explained in the past, that what makes something kosher, whatever is kosher, comes from the level of chesed, of the attributes of kindness. Something which is not kosher comes from the attribute of gevura, restricted. Makes it not kosher, not able to being elevated. So this is the mystical principle of the Torah, which is connected with the emotive attributes. And the Alter Rebbe goes on and says, quoting the Arizal, saying, moreover, it says, when does the Chachma, when is it grasped by Moses? He says, moreover, supernal Chachma extends to the end of the 4 lowest sephiros, the 10 lowest attributes, which is Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. Those are the 4 lower emotive attributes. Because these latter 4 emotive attributes are merely the extrinsic offshoots of the first 3 basic emotive attributes, Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet, which they activate and cause to descend. Okay? So this we explained in the previous chapters, that you have the attributes, the emotive attributes, and then you have the lower level of emotive attributes of how to actually relate whatever you have to outside of you. And that is a reduced level of revelation. There, Moses' prophecy apprehended the pnimius, meaning the inner dimension of Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. These 4 levels, Moshe Rabbeinu apprehended the inner dimension of it. Mipchinas pnimius, the Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. Avol, but lemayla menetzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus, lo shum asaga b'pnimius. However, his apprehension did not extend to the pnimius of the levels of divinity transcending Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. In the higher levels, he didn't reach the inner dimension. Ki'im b'pchinas acharayim dechachma, amelubashim bebina, amelubeshes, amispashates tech pnimius the Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. But only to the acharayim, the external aspect of chachma, which is vested in bina, which in turn is vested and extended within the pnimius, the inner part of Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. And it says this is besoid noivlois chachma shelemayla Torah. This is the mystic principle underlying the teachings of the Medrash, that noivlois chachma, the withered vestige of supernal chachma, is Torah. Noivlois means something that drips down, something that is left, something that is very small, very, like it says in Tehillim, V'aleyu lo yibol, the leaf is not gonna fall down, meaning it's not gonna be wasted or something. The Talmud teaches us that it talks about words of Talmidei Chachamim, words of the sages, even words that seem to be plain, mundane talk. This is also something that has wisdom in it. So he says that the Torah is only considered the noivlois of the Chachma. That leftover of the Chachma is the Torah. That's how deep you can understand what the inner part of the Torah is much, much greater. Shehi b'bchina ze'er rampin. On the level of ze'er rampin, the dimension of the finite, as explained above, the diminished and finite level of the revelation. And this is the Alter Rebbe, thus it is written that God says to Moshe Rabbeinu, God said to Moses, you shall see my back. The achorai means the back in Hebrew, meaning the external part of divinity, but my face shall not be seen. Panai means my face. What is my face suggesting? It means the pnimiyut, the inner part, the inward aspect of divinity that Hashem says to Moshe, that you cannot see. And that is exactly what the Arizal says over here, that Moshe Rabbeinu did not see the inner part of the Chachma. Ayin Shom b'Shar HaNavuah Perek Aleph, see there in Likutei Torah of the Arizal and in Shar HaNavuah chapter 1. And here, the Alter Rebbe concludes with a question. Having said that, Moshe Rabbeinu did not achieve and grasp from the inner parts of the Chachma, only from the inner part of the lower levels of the emotive attributes. Then how come, says the Alter Rebbe, the Arizal taught and understood and studied the depth of the teachings of the Spheros, which is much, much higher levels than the lower levels of Netzachod Yesod. It says, how could it be if Moshe Rabbeinu was the highest prophet and would never was and never will be a prophet in the level of Moshe Rabbeinu? How is it possible that the Arizal himself was teaching and revealing secrets of the deeper dimensions of the Chachma? That's what Alter Rebbe says. Now it seems surprising after all. After all, it is said, there rose no other prophet in Israel like Moses. ודורש כמה דרושים מבחינת פנימיוס, אפילו בספירס ומדרגס רבי של למעלה מהחוכמה וכסד האצילוס. How then did Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, the Arizal of blessed memory, how did he apprehend more than Moshe? And expound many themes dealing with the pnimius, even of the many sephiros and levels that transcends Chachma and Keser of Atzilus. We finished today with the question, and we shall continue tomorrow. Tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem, will bring the answer. And here the beautiful lesson is that understanding the depth of the Torah, and even Moshe Rabbeinu did not achieve, only a very, very, very small part. And that we can understand and appreciate what we gain by studying the Torah. How this is the bridge that connects us with Hashem. So, have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow, God willing. All the best.